AITA for telling my brother's wife she's responsible for his health declining. My brother, 30, is diabetic. Has type 1 diabetes and got it from when he was young. As his older sibling, I grew up watching my parents managing this condition for him. He has always been traumatized by this condition and never come to terms with it, so what he used to, and still does, is act like his condition doesn't exist. The family. Mom is now deceased. Didn't know how to handle it, because if we let him act like that then there would major consequences, so we took it upon ourselves to manage his condition for him. We'd watch his eating habits and correct them, watch his insulin intake, and encourage him to live healthy. When he brought his now wife home, we told her how it is and that he can be reckless and in denial about his condition, and so she needed to help and work with us and keep an eye on him. She did her best at first, but started caving in to his complaints about not being able to eat this or that, or when he complains about his insulin intake and having to pay for it. He got increasingly worse the past 3 months. We didn't know exactly what was going on till his wife called to tell us he was in the hospital because of a hyperglycemic episode. His blood sugar levels were too high, he almost went into a diabetic coma. The reason for this was because he wasn't taking the right dosage of insulin. I talked to his wife and had an argument with her. She said he deliberately kept stretching out his insulin dosage to be able to save insulin and not have to buy it. I told her still she should have had kept an eye on him. It's unfortunate that their insurance is screwed and financial situation is rough, but she should have stopped him and not stood there watching. She said I was being too hard on her, but I told her that if he was doing this under the family's watch we wouldn't have allowed it, and so she bears part of the blame for him staying in the hospital. She started crying and asked for a minute for herself. I went home because I couldn't see him after waiting for long. My dad called later asking about my conversation with sister-in-law. I refrained from talking about it, but he said she called him and told him everything. He said I shouldn't have said this to her and made her feel guilty. I said I was just disappointed she let this happen and expected her to be the responsible one if my brother wasn't. He said I have to apologize, but I'm unsure whether I was completely at fault here because I feel there's a bit of neglect on her part. YTA. Your brother is a grown-ass man, not a child, and his wife is not his mother. She doesn't have to baby him and hold his hand through his treatment. If he's neglecting his health, that's on him, not on his wife for not playing mommy for him. I mean, what was she supposed to do if he refuses to take care of his health? Ground him? Come on. Up. And in fact, I suspect you and your family's clear coddling of your brother is the reason he seems incapable of taking care of himself without being monitored and disciplined into it. YTA. I'm type 1 and it's no one else's responsibility to manage my diabetes. If your brother hasn't come to terms with his diabetes, then he needs to do something about that. Your family robbed your brother of the opportunity to take responsibility for his health. Then you pushed that responsibility onto his wife without even considering whether she wanted that responsibility then when they are clearly struggling to pay for his medication. You berate the wife. Huge asshole. YTA. He's a grown-ass man and she's his wife, not his maid. My little cousin is 7 this year. He knows what he should be eating and has to help calculate his insulin every time he eats. It's his health condition and he's going to have to learn to manage it. He's a child and he get on just fine. Your brother is a grown-ass man and can't do it. YTA. What? It's his condition and his responsibility. Especially as a damn adult like WTF. Why blame her? YTA. But that's probably your wife's fault. YTA. I'm gonna be harsh here because I think you and your family need it. Your brother is an adult. If he isn't willing to face reality and deal with it accordingly, then any health issues that he has due to him being #seeking idiot are his responsibility. No one else's. Definitely not his wife's. She is not a nurse or his mother. He is not a 2-year-old. You have all enabled him since he developed diabetes. He needs to grow the #CK up and deal with his diabetes or it will kill him. It isn't going away. It won't magically disappear because he chooses to ignore it. YTA. Dude's 30. Not a child. It's not his wife's responsibility to force him to care for himself. Apologize. Then keep your opinions to yourself. There's something very, very wrong here, and it not your brother's wife. Your brother is diabetic. His condition is his responsibility. By the family taking control and enabling him to devolve himself of any responsibility you have enabled him to opt out of his own care. His wife is not responsible for his condition or managing his condition. Because you and the family have become used to looking after him, you have mistakenly assumed that this is also the role of his wife. It is not. I'd love to think that having a hyper attack may have scared your brother into taking control of his own health and his own life, but somehow I feel it unlikely. If you want to lay the blame anywhere, then lay it on yourself and your own family for letting him get away with this bullshit for so long. He needs a huge wake-up call. His first hypo attack probably isn't enough. He will have more, and one day it is very probable that he will coma and die. That's the hard truth. Eating what he likes and injecting less insulin will hasten that event, and there is nothing you can do about it. It's his business. He is in control of his own destiny and no one can or should interfere with this. Had you not taken over in the first place, he probably wouldn't have been in this position. So lay off his wife. It was probably terrifying for her. She didn't sign up to be his mother, his nurse, or his keeper. She signed up to be his wife. She cannot police him 24 hours a day, and not should she. This is a chance for a massive reality check for you all. Don't let it pass you by. And yes, YTA, but only because of your own ignorance about responsibilities. YTA. You and your family kept pampering a child and then a grown-up man to keep being in denial and not have control of his life, and you suddenly want someone else to take the blame of your brother's irresponsibility? YTA. He's a grown man who makes his own decisions. A wife can only do so much. Your parents are at fault because they coddled him and didn't nip it in the bud at childhood. As a type 1 YTA, he should be in therapy for managing his own condition, and for him to fully accept it. Type 1 diabetes can be difficult to deal with at times, which is why support is important. But to completely blame someone else for your brother's lack of responsibility? You all need a wake-up call. And the only person that isn't the asshole is his wife. She's his wife, not his mommy. Stop treating women like your caretakers. YTA. My father and uncle have both had type 1 since they were 5 years old. They are both now late 60s. Back then it was a death sentence. Docs told them they'd be lucky to see 30. Since children, they were able to manage their health with little to no issues. In my 40 years of life, I've seen my father go into diabetic shock once. And it was after a day of him pushing himself too hard in a home renovation. TLDR of this is your brother is an adult. As such, it is his responsibility alone to manage his health. His wife is there as a support, not as a nurse. Your parents failed him, and now he's failing himself. You taking it out on her is unjustified. YTA. Your brother is the one who isn't managing his condition. When your family were handling everything for him, there were multiple people checking his food, his blood sugar, his dosage, etc. Now it's just her. They've got crap insurance. And she's the only one there. I'm unsure whether I was completely at fault here because I feel there's a bit of neglect on her part. Well, you're the one who blamed her for your brother not managing his condition, so not sure how it's not your fault. The words came from your mouth. Why didn't your brother get therapy as a child? Why was he not taught how to manage his condition? Why was it all left to his wife? He deliberately kept stretching out his insulin dosage. As in your brother, he stretched his insulin. She's just trying to pick up the pieces. YTA, this is a grown man. It's not her job to care for him. By your logic, maybe you should have a look at your own family for enabling him to be so irresponsible and unable to take care of himself. Adults can make their own choices. No one is responsible for him but himself. YTA. As someone with a progressive disability, I would be absolutely enraged if I'd been told my siblings had blamed my girlfriend for something happening to me. My parents and siblings coddled me the same way because they didn't think I was able to take care of myself. I actually got better with my health as soon as I moved out, and my girlfriend told me outright she wasn't going to do the same. Not only are you enabling your brother, you're also encouraging an incredibly unhealthy relationship dynamic by expecting his wife to mother him, especially at that age. If he hasn't already realized that he needs to take better care of himself after the hospital visit, then get him a damn therapist and a wake-up call. If you haven't realized that he needs to take care of himself, then get yourself the same. From one older sibling to another. You should never have been placed in this position in the first place. It was never your responsibility. You should have been focused on growing and bettering yourself. Focused on being a kid, without feeling required to play the same role as your parents. It wasn't fair of your parents to put that on you. And it's not fair of you to continue that cycle and put it on your brother's wife. Yes, a relationship with a disabled person requires compromise. But that doesn't mean every compromise is a good one. Disability doesn't absolve you of the ability to be a bad person, nor the potential to become an abusive person given the right factors. I don't know the details, and it's no way my intent to accuse your brother of anything. But this sort of refusal to take care of oneself can be a major red flag if others show up along with it. It may be time to step back and look at things from an outside perspective. Are you really helping your brother by doing this? Or are you teaching him that he can keep getting away without consequences by taking care of it for him? Has he ever shown any sort of appreciation for all of this towards you or your parents? Or even his wife? I tell my sisters and parents every time I see them how much I appreciate what they've done for me. But even a single thank you is better than nothing. TDLR. There's a lot going on here to could possibly point to toxic interpersonal relationships between both your brother and his wife, and between him, you and your parents. Family ties can be a hell of a blindfold, and the sooner you can rip it off and see this situation clearly, the better. Your brother should be responsible for his health. And if he's struggling, then he'll need to learn to reach out for help. That burden shouldn't have been yours to bear in the first place. YTA. Your SIL is not his caretake or his mother. Your grown-ass brother needs to learn how to manage his condition and take responsibility for himself. Honestly, your parents failed your brother by mollycoddling him all his life. YTA. It's ridiculous that he refuses to self-manage, and that's absolutely not her fault. It is your fault that you blamed her for your brother's ongoing decision to be a reckless, selfish idiot. The first paragraph is all about why not his wife, but rather your family is responsible for his irresponsibility. YTA. In this family aside from the wife,
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. AmITheAsshole is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.